Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another review for SPSFC2, the self-published science fiction competition number 2 for the quarterfinalists of Team Dragons in Space, which I am part of, as you can see. And today's review is for the third book that I read of our 7 quarterfinalists, and that is Lottery to Haven by William Guy. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name correctly. I did research it, but I couldn't find a pronunciation. Knowing that there's a lot of Chinese influence in this story, and I think he might be Chinese himself or has Chinese heritage. That's why I think it is pronounced Gi, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, that was a long preamble for Lottery to Haven, which is a really interesting sci-fi book. And similar to the last reviews that I've done for SPSFC, I will just cover a quick summary, basically reading you the description of the book, and then talk about my reading experience and tell you what I think about world-building characters, the writing style, and then just my personal opinions around this book. Starting off with the handy-dandy description from Amazon, Jennifer Me feels nothing but contempt for the New World and those choosing to abscond there. For the richest few, the New World represents an escape from a dying Earth, a place to start anew, free from responsibilities to society. With every launch, a global lottery is convened to select one lucky winner to accompany each paying passenger. Cast in the lottery without her knowledge, Jen is drawn into a desperate snare that even her skills as a budding cybersecurity specialist are ill-equipped to untangle. Joined by 4 other winners, she must uncover New World's shadowy motives for the lottery. Experience a new thrilling dystopian vision from author William Guy that will keep you guessing till the final page. So Lottery to Haven is not a typical Western sci-fi, which makes this really interesting for me. It's heavily set on Chinese culture, so throughout the story and as part of the world building and the character development, you learn actually a lot about Asian, more specifically Chinese culture. There are a lot of tidbits when it comes to saving face, where you put certain things in a room, in a place of honor, how you interact with other people, how you talk to them. So the world building itself, since it is set on Earth in China, was not very specific, but I thought you got a lot of details, or all the details that you needed rather, to enjoy the story in a very fluent manner, which also, because it was not overly descriptive, made it more focused, which I personally enjoyed, even though I love vast world buildings, which made this really an interestingly paced story. I don't know, I would call it a fast-paced story, but it's not slow-paced either, except for there was one scene where she made some jewelry, and that was oddly descriptive, so that didn't quite fit into the rest of the pacing, but it was really interesting, and it kind of started a bit slower and then sped up as we read, and the ending, like especially the third part, was really fast and really, okay, things have to happen, and things are happening like in seconds, and you're running out of time. Like, that's this type of situation. Coming to the characters, so the main character that we are following here, Jen, is, first of all, I love her snarkiness, and I love how feisty she is. So as a character, she is really, really interesting, and I really enjoyed following her on that journey and figuring out what is actually happening. Having said that, character descriptions happen slightly different in this book too. So usually where you are, as part of the story, either you are told something, or as part of the description you learn something about the character. Here it felt like you actually learn more throughout the dialogues she is having with her mother, with her best friend, with the people around her. And I'm not sure how to really explain that, but the dialogues was what I really, really enjoyed in this book, because they were somehow, I can't put a word on that. I have a really hard time trying to explain why I love the dialogues in this book so much, but they were somehow different, and something drew me towards those dialogues, and I really enjoyed the conversation that she was having with the people around her. Weird description, and I'm sorry that I'm so vague with that, but I really don't know how to really phrase it, because I haven't encountered a book like this before where I've learned so much about someone just through the dialogue. So that was really fascinating for me. Moving on to the writing style, I'm wondering, and I don't want to make that sound awkward or mean or anything, but I'm wondering if this book was originally written in a different language and then translated by someone who is not really fluent in the English language. And I'm saying that because there are some odd word choices in here, and then those words were repeated over and over again, and there was no variety in some of the descriptors that were used throughout the book. So as an example, affluent, he always used the word affluent to describe the richer neighborhoods. There was no variety. He didn't use any synonyms for that. The other one was the word used for a light source was torch, but you don't shine a torch in someone's face. So that's what, like there were those type of phrases where I was just sitting there and wondering, okay, maybe something was lost in translation literally here. But besides that, like if you can ignore those type of, in some cases, awkward word choices, the writing was actually pretty fluent and well done. Again, as I described earlier, the pacing was really interesting because it started rather slow. Starting at part 2 of the book, so the book, by the way, was divided in 3 parts. So there was an actual divider, like part 2 starts now, part 3 starts now. So, but definitely with the start of part 2, it got really interesting. And it was kind of this funnel of, okay, I'm really leading you now to the end, to the reveal of the story. And it was really well done. And I actually ended up, so while I took a little bit longer for the first part 2 and 3 I read within a day because I just couldn't stop reading it anymore. It was so quick and so like just pulling you into the story. You had to know what continued next. And even though I had an idea at around the 2/3 mark of what the end result is going to be, I was like, okay, I have to continue. And he just pulled in the right amount of like side things that helped support the story, but not distract the main part of the story. And it really focused really heavily on that last scene and the outcome of it. All right, that about characterization, world building, writing. Let's get into who I think this book might be for or not, and some of my personal thoughts. So this book is unique when it comes to how certain things are phrased, what words are used. So if you have issues with or just can't read over sometimes clunky word choices, you might have difficulty with this book. It's also very heavily reliant on computer lingo because the main character is a computer science student. So there's a lot of like computer/hacker stuff, it's just part of the story. Like what she is doing as part of that is important for the story. So if heavy computer lingo and sometimes very specific language is not your thing, or you just have no clue what's going on, that could also throw you off, I think. But if you're looking for something really unique from a story perspective and also storytelling perspective, this I think is a really great book to pick up and check out. Because again, I don't think I've had something like this in my hands before. Plus, I think it is so important, especially in the science fiction genre, that we add more diversity to it. It is so heavily influenced by Western authors and Western storytelling style that I thought was a really refreshing take and a really refreshing read for me. And if you haven't figured that out yet, talking about my personal opinion, out of the books that I've read so far, this is my favorite. Even though it was not perfect, but I really enjoyed what it was giving me from the story, from the character, from the relationship the characters built, and all that kind of stuff. I really, really loved it. Also something that is really exciting. If you want a sci-fi standalone and not a beginning of a series, this is a sci-fi standalone, so that might be interesting for that. All right, I'd love to hear your thought. What do you think about the Lottery to Haven? Is this a book that you're interested in picking up and checking out and maybe giving it a try? And don't forget to check out all the other reviews that are coming out now out of the quarterfinalists for SPSFC2, not just in Team Dragons in Space, but for the entire competition. There's really some great books out there that I highly recommend you check out, or at least the review for them. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon with my next video. Bye!